Welcome everyone to Dead Talk Live, and today we have a very special guest. The star of Sci-Fi's Day of the Dead, Keenan Tracey, is with us. Keenan, thank you for being here
Hello,
with
hello.
us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thanks, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on the show. And before we get started, like I told you before the interview started, I became a huge fan of yours and got to know you in Bates Motel. Now, that being said, I was really excited when I heard you were cast for Day of the Dead. But I gotta tell you, man, when I saw you on Day of the Dead, it looks like they made you 10 years younger than how you looked on Bates Motel. Uh,
Yeah.
did they do that intentionally in Bates Motel, make you look much older?
Well, the funny thing is that was seven. Started at like 8 years ago, I guess,
Exactly.
and then it went till about 5 years ago. But yeah, it's literally just the difference of shaving clean, maybe a shorter haircut, and a demeanor. Demeanor is everything, I think.
And
You can
also
be young and chipper, or you can be, I don't know, kind of gruff and yeah,
And also Bates Motel, just the way they filmed it, it was a much darker show than
yeah.
Day of the Dead is. I mean, you would agree with
Yeah,
that, right?
tonally, it's entirely different. Bates Motel was like a serious, dark and scary uh, show, whereas Day of the Dead,
A little bit
it's
more lighthearted.
funnier. Yeah, yeah, totally lighthearted.
All right, so let's talk about Bates Motel. You appeared in 14 episodes. When you booked the role, did you know how long you would be on the show and you would end up becoming this reoccurring character? Or you had
No, no, not
absolutely
at
no
all.
idea?
I had no idea when I first got signed on to it. It was supposed to be like maybe two, with the potential to reoccur, but at that point, nothing was. I didn't get signed on to do the amount of episodes I did. I got signed on for maybe a couple in the end of first season, and then that turned into a few more second season, and then most of the third, and then a bit in four.
So let's talk about the character of Gunner, okay?
Yeah.
A great character. He is in charge of, not in charge, but part of this huge pot farm ring that's
Hmm.
going on in the small city where the Bates Motel happens. And you run across Max Therio, who plays Norman Bates'
Dylan.
brother, brilliantly on the show. We'll get more into him
Yeah,
in a
he's great.
second. I want to ask you first? What did you think of the writers expanding on the Bates family and giving Norman a brother?
I mean, expanding an hour and 30 minute, hour 20 minute movie into what's going to end up being 10 hours a season for 5 seasons. You kind of have to take some liberties at some point, I think, because there wasn't that much there initially. You're stretching a little bit into a lot, and I think at certain points you have to add things. And
Yeah.
and I thought the liberties they chose were still in theme, and I thought it stayed true to what Psycho was without really. I don't know. Obviously, there's additions to it, but I felt like tonally, the parallels were done really well, and I felt like that left room for the changes they did make.
Bates Motel was a huge success.
Yeah.
Everyone loved it. The fans loved it. The critics loved it. Were you a fan of the Alfred Hitchcock Psycho movie when you booked the
It's
role?
still one of my favorite movies. It always was. So getting that audition in my email was pretty exciting. Even just having the chance to be on it, and then getting signed on to it. That's definitely one of the more exciting phone calls I think I've had, because I liked it already.
So when you started getting the scripts, when you booked the role and you started getting the scripts, and you saw how they were really sticking with the story of what Norman was about, giving us the backstory that obviously could not be given to us in the movie, were you
Mhm.
impressed with how the direction that the writers were going with?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think they expanded it in a way that really worked. I think they added a lot of cool characters that made it interesting, and I overall really like what they did. regardless of having any part in that show, it would be something I watched for sure. I loved that show.
Now, the majority of your scenes are with Max. What was it like
Yeah,
working with Max?
Max is great. He's just an easy dude to be on set with and around with, and whether we're on set or somewhere else, like I feel like he's just an easy guy to be around, easy guy to be in the room with, talkative, and I don't know. There's just a sense of comfortability there, like he, a sense of ease. Like I feel like that was a set that everybody was stoked to be on. Especially, I mean, the more seasons something does, a lot of the same crew, you start to get this like
Like, you
this
guys
sense
are
of,
being a part of something really special.
yeah, and also just the more time that goes on, the more you all work together, the smoother things become. It becomes this like you hear the term well-oiled machine all the time. But I think that was one of those cases where that was the case. Yeah.
Now, sticking with the cast, of course, it's led by the awesome Vera Farmiga, who plays Norma Bates. You have Freddie Highmore, who plays Norman. You have yourself. Did you learn a lot as an actor working with such other great actors alongside you?
Totally, they were easy people to look up to, especially seeing as when I started on that show, I was a lot newer, and these are people that have been doing it forever and really well, and they were easy people to respect.
Mm-hmm.
They're both incredibly intelligent, incredibly kind, and just respectful people that I feel brought that to set, and it completely trickled down. It was a respectable place to be, and I looked up to them both a lot.
Would you have wished to have had more scenes with like Freddie or Vera as Gunner?
Oh, of course. Like I said, they're really respectable actors in my opinion. That being said, the people I did do the majority of the work, like Max and Kenny, I have a lot of respect for them too. So I don't know. It was a hard set to not feel like a win-win, no matter who you're working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Bates Motel, they did it brilliantly in the terms of it didn't get canceled. They didn't drag it on more than it needed to be. It was five
Mm,
seasons, which was just the right amount of time to give us the story that they wanted to give us. Where in the final season, it actually blends into with the Psycho movie with some changes.
mm,
Do you
mm.
like that aspect that they did not because it was still very successful?
Totally.
They
I think that was. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have dragged it on more, but they didn't. They ended it on their terms. Tell us your thoughts
Yeah.
on that.
I think that's a brilliant move in general. I think ending things kind of within your control as opposed to waiting until people kind of stop following it or whatever and just dragging something out as long as you can. I think it was smart that they had an idea of the end when it started.
Hmm.
I think that's also part of what kind of was able to keep it true to the old one, because you're not making this 12 season long universe or something. It was concise enough that they didn't really have to change too much, and I think that's also important. I think it also contributes to going out on a high note. I
Yeah,
think that was a huge part of it.
I,
I think also doing 10 episodes as opposed to 13, which especially when it started, that was more common. I think that was a really good move, because all of a sudden you can pour the budget that would have gone into those extra 3 episodes and kind of spread it out more along the ones you are making.
yeah, and I give kudos to the producers, the writers, and how they knew the story. They knew how much they wanted to go, and they ended it on their terms. They didn't, like you said,
Totally.
they did not wait till enthusiasm for the show waned and the viewers started
Mhm.
to drop off. So kudos to them. Now, Psycho, it's a movie. You only have so much you can do in a 90-minute film, and of course, it's focused on Norman Bates. Now, Bates Motel, it being a TV show and having a lot more freedom, I would say it is the relationship between a mother and a son. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I totally would. It's definitely more of a family aspect to it than, well, I mean, the original the theme was pretty late into it, but you actually see their relationship, seeing as the show starts before she's actually mummified.
I mean, we're well past the days of, the spoiler expiration date. I
Oh
gotta
yeah,
say,
yeah,
the way they ended the show, I'm not going to give it away to the people who have not watched it yet, but I think it was
yeah.
brilliant.
Maybe we'll save
Yeah,
a
we'll
little
save a
piece of.
little bit for them, but I think it was brilliantly wrapped up. With Max playing such a huge part in the ending, and we'll
Mm.
just leave it at that. For our
Yeah, let's
viewers
leave it
out
there.
there, if you guys have not watched Bates Motel, it is available for streaming on Peacock. It's available for rent or purchase on your favorite video on demand retailer. I guarantee you, if you start just the first episode, you will find yourself binging all 5 seasons. That's how much of an amazing show it is. Now, let's move on to Day of the Dead. And before we get into the Day of the Dead, if you think about it, you've appeared in the TV adaptations of two classic horror movies. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's always been a genre I've liked. It's one of my favorite genres, and like I said about Bates Motel, I was already a fan of both of these things. So it's really exciting getting stuff like that through your email and going in for it. So yeah, exactly what I said about the other one. It's just really fun to be able to recreate something you liked and had seen before you ever had the idea that you were going to be a part of it at all, and it feels good to be.
Exactly. So I gotta ask you, when you auditioned, even before, had you watched the George Romero Dead movies?
Oh yeah, yeah, all of them.
Okay. Now with that, when you just heard that they're making Day of the Dead into a TV show, what was the first thing that came into your mind?
That it would be a challenge. The biggest challenge would be giving it the essence of the old ones, because part of what is so good about the old ones is also what's inescapably hokey about it, and the things that were an accident, and there was just a tone to it. It's almost like what was bad, the things that weren't like perfect about the original is just kind of what made it.
Yeah.
It was like a good bad, and I feel like that's a really specific thing to try and recreate, and hopefully most of that was intentional.
So when you auditioned, did you know that you were auditioning for the lead role in Cam?
It was kind of laid out in the in the thing that it would be at least one of two leads, and you could kind of tell by the way the scenes I got for the audition were as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you booked it, lead role on a TV show from a classic movie, you were like, "Oh hell yeah!"
Oh yeah, yeah. I was pretty stoked.
Now, for those of you that have not watched, Day of the Dead is on Sci-Fi. Your character is the lead character as Cam. Now, as you started getting the script and you started filming, Day of the Dead, I love it. First off, I am hearing a lot of fan reactions, and I'm sure you are as well. People who were a little nervous, being fans of the original movie, how are they going to pull this off on a TV show? And they are really impressed, as am I, with sort of sticking to the original premise, but taking a different approach with making it a lot more lighthearted. Do you like the way they did that?
The way the creators did, the showrunners did.
Yeah, it took it into a more lighthearted approach.
Yeah, it's definitely a little sillier. I think that was an important thing. Again, kind of to parallel the tone of the old one. I think if it was too serious and it was seeming that way, it would kind of lose that effect. You kind of lose the humor in it.
And also,
I'm kind of glad they leaned into the humor side of it, especially being a series as opposed to a movie. It's stretched out longer. I think it's a little more palatable that way.
yeah, and it sort of makes its own identity. We already have quite a few serious zombie shows that are going on right now. You know, The
Hmm.
Walking Dead, Black Summer, and so on.
Hmm.
They're taking the serious approach. They're both great shows. So the way they did it with Day of the Dead, blending the lightheartedness with, so far what we're seeing is the start of the zombie apocalypse. They're doing it really well in balancing the two out, and I think ultimately that's going to give it its own identity in the zombie verse in the TV world. Do you agree?
I think it could. I would say it's the one difference it has to the other zombie shows that have been around in the last decade or half decade. So I think that was a good call on their part. It's also just fun. I think it gives them an excuse to go way farther on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to the gore and the violence of things. Is It's balanced with humor, and it doesn't ever seem like too much because there's a reciprocation of just silliness.
Now,
It's kind of hard. Have you ever watched a horror movie? I used to do this as a kid when I first started watching horror. If there was something super scary, I would either just watch it on mute for a second if I felt like there was going to be just something I couldn't handle all of a sudden,
mhm.
or you play it with like funny music in the background, and it would just, I don't know when my camera just did that.
Actually, that
It
was
would
kind of cool.
it was kind of cool. I didn't realize that was even a thing. You can see my messy apartment. It was a way to just kind of I don't know, take the heat out of it a little. And,
Uh-huh.
and if all of a sudden there was a comedic aspect to it, it was really hard to be scared by it all of a sudden. If you're looking at The Ring and the girls coming out of the TV, but it's too like party rock anthem, or you can't really take it seriously, or like something stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what adding humor to horror does in general. It takes the sting out of how far you can go with the blood.
Absolutely. Now, it looks like you guys are having a blast on set with what's going on. Is that true? Do you guys are having just a boatload of fun while filming this?
Oh yeah. Well, we were filming it this time a year ago until right up until Christmas, and so we've been wrapped for quite some time. But I've seen a few of them in the meantime. Me and Natalie got together,
Mm-hmm.
and we watched the premiere together at a studio of a friend of mine's with a small group of our friends. But set was a blast. Really good people. It was the first thing I had worked on since the film industry had kind of come back out of lockdown, and I think that was the case for a lot of the other people on it as well. So we were all just happy to be back on the ship again, and
And working.
you know, yeah, it
So,
yeah, it felt good.
what has been the reactions you've been getting from your fans, followers since the show has premiered?
Admittedly, I tactfully kind of keep my head out of things when it comes to uh, stuff like that. Unless it's super pertinent, I try not to get on things and read things. I'm trying to just think about what I'm currently working on and what I will be working on, and the things I still have any sort of sway or control in artistically. But once you call picture wrap and they send it off to the editors, you're
You're done. Yeah.
yeah, you're at the mercy of the machine and the system and the process, and it's more or less just completely out of your hands. So I've learned to just kind of let go of it at that point and let it set sail and hope people like it. And if they do, that's the goal. And I'm glad we gave people something to enjoy. And if not, then just keep doing more anyway.
Exactly. Now, the TV show pays tribute to the film, especially with
Mm.
character names. Um,
Yes.
Now, your dad on the show, we found
Mhm.
out with this last episode that aired last week, is
It's
actually
Bob.
the dude that I'm wearing on my shirt from the
That's
original
him there.
movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, you guys who have not watched it, Keenan's dad, his character Cam, his dad is gonna end up being Bub, which is probably
Mhm.
the most famous zombie of all time, whether it's movie or television. What do you
Yeah,
think to them?
got a name.
What do you think to them paying tribute to the original with the names and like the mine shaft with the caves and so on?
I think that was part of what was necessary, to be honest. I mean, there's with there being three movies, there's so much to draw from, and uh, I feel like it would have been a mistake not to. I think that yeah, there's a lot of cookies they could add, and I think Jed and Scott, the creators, really did a good job of throwing that in there. Bob, especially, he's the zombie with a name.
Yep, yep. Now, your character, Cam, is a complicated character, and we're starting with each episode to find out more about Cam. This last episode, we found out with Luke, you guys were best friends at one point, but that story got stopped right there. I'm sure we're going
Mm,
to find out more. Now,
that comes back around.
the premiere of the show is sort of like a flash forward. Uh, we don't know how much of a flash forward, but you guys are in the midst of the outbreak. You and Luke are together,
Mm.
and then following, it starts. It takes us back to the beginning. Um, do you like that aspect of storytelling, like giving us a taste of what's going on, and then going back in time and starting from the beginning?
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, Pulp Fiction or the Breaking Bad would do that a lot. I mean, tons of stuff over time has done that super well. I don't know, just another interesting aspect of storytelling. I think it was fun the way they decided to do that, and also so much of this is about like it's not just about a relationship between two people or something, and it has this arc of all these different things that happen along the way. It's a day where this huge one instance occurs and it affects everybody. I think it was important to show where it gets to, and then you go in with this idea, kind of seeing where this ends up, and going, "Holy shit! Like, how did that get to that?"
Yeah,
Um, I think that was a good idea on their part
a-
for sure.
absolutely. Now, your character is at odds with your dad. Okay,
Mhm.
it starts off. You guys had a fight the night before. So when you're drawing inspiration to play Cam, what's your method on any character really that you're about to play? How do you draw inspiration to get into character?
Um, Usually by going into it and trying to look at it empathetically, like this character is another person first, and then try to think of it as somebody who you like, and even though they have these flaws, you want them to do well,
Hmm.
and you try to make the character like a family member in your head, and you care about it, and you try to break down what you have in common with them. And as soon as you figure that out, I feel like that's what you can kind of expand upon. So like if the traits of the character and my own traits align even just 10%, I'll take that 10% and kind of make it the cornerstone of the character. So it's even though I'm not that person, we're still coming from a place that is real to the character and me in real life, and I feel like it's like telling a lie from an honest place, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Now, in your opinion, how do you play Cam that he is going to be a survivor in the zombie apocalypse? What do you
I
think
kind of
distinguishes him?
perseverance, but I kind of wanted to give him an aspect of like you don't know if he will, because he's super reluctant, and he's you whenever there's a call to action, he ends up being able to pull through, but there's always this moment of like, and so I kind of wanted to give him a sense of like this guy might not.
We don't know exactly.
And the kind of shows that are out now, it's plausible. You never know. I
Hmm.
mean, you've shows that kill the lead of the first season in the last episode, and then they do a whole series after that. Still,
Hmm.
you really never know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe there was others and I that I'm not remembering, but I feel like, and I want to hear your opinion on this too. I feel like 24, the old Kiefer Sutherland.
I love it.
I feel like that was the I feel like that was the first show to really like ruthlessly kill off characters and to totally surprise you. Because up until then, I feel like you would know the actors that were signed on for a season. So even if they die, it's probably not going to be here in episode 6 out of 13.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the first show that really like they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill Tony Almeida just out of the blue, or just kill their leads, and I feel like that set a trend, but I don't really remember it before that.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up 24, and as soon as you said 24 and killing leads, the first scene that popped into my mind, I don't know if you're going to remember this scene, is the season where that maniac releases the virus into the hotel. And
I think that's 2. I think
yeah,
that's the second.
I forget which season it is, but one of his demands is that Jack Bauer, played by Kiefer Sutherland, kill Jack's boss. And he takes him out to the railroad tracks.
Oh yeah.
He takes him out to the railroad tracks, and Jack Bauer puts a bullet into his boss's head. That was shocking.
I remember feeling like, oh, they're gonna whip it around and it's gonna be like a dream. I
Yeah,
remember feeling that way about that show all the time.
but they did it. They did it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they really did.
and you're right. That was a shocker, and a lot of shows started following suit when it comes to revealing shocks, like stuff that audiences up until that point, while watching any kind of genre, television or movie, oh, this person is not going to die. Something's going to happen in the last minute, and they're going to
Totally.
be saved. But 24 took it to the next level, and then a lot of other shows started following suit, which I think is great. Not knowing, even if you are the lead, if you're going to
Hmm.
make it, it adds an element of anticipation within the viewers that you don't know who's safe. Do you like that?
Totally. Yeah, I don't I think what I usually if I don't like something it's because I could tell what was going to happen, or I feel like it was so close to so many other things and didn't veer. It just kind of changed the names around or something to something that you're not surprised. I feel like that's what'll let me down about something I'm watching, and so to be surprised by things, I feel like
Yep,
that's the goal,
that is a goal.
So
And to give you a perfect
killing that stuff.
example, like
Or net.
if you go back to The Walking Dead, what made me a Walking Dead fan was in season 2, when that little girl Sophia came out of the barn as a walker, as a zombie. That was like,
Mm.
whoa, this show is going to be something special. Just another example. Now, when you take Cam, and you're playing him, how well is there any part that of you that says, okay, how would I do in the zombie apocalypse? Okay, if this
Oh yeah.
shit was really happening and the dead were
Mm.
coming out of graves and reanimating, how would Keenan, react? Do you try to bring any sort of that aspect into your character?
Yeah, a little bit, but remember what I was saying about the parts that overlap, and then there are parts that don't.
Yeah,
I feel like uh, I I also think that's part of the beauty of watching these things is as a crux before anyone ever does anything right, they show you them doing it wrong to sort of build this tension and this sense of like, what the fuck? Can I say that? Sorry.
yeah,
This sense of just like uh, tension, so that when they finally prevail, it's like, yes, they did it. And I think that uh, because of that, you see them do a lot of dumb things, like breaking horror movie rules.
mm-hmm.
You know, never split up,
Never split up.
never go upstairs. Um, don't walk outside and leave the door open behind you if you aren't looking at it. Like shit like that. Um,
For me, it's like anytime anybody in a horror movie, if they go into a room in a situation where something scary is happening and they leave the door unguarded, I'm like, you idiots. I would take a door jamb and like
yeah,
make sure that door does not close behind me.
yeah, or just don't go outside.
Exactly. Don't do it. But, it's movies, it's TV.
Hmm.
There's a lot of high tension between the characters on Day of the Dead that we're slowly starting to be revealed. So let me ask you, and I think you're allowed to say this: how many total episodes are in the first season of Day of the Dead? 10. Okay, that's the perfect number. I think we just passed episode number 4, so we have 6 left to go. And I gotta say,
Hmm.
in this last episode, when you're being dropped off at the police station, and you're like, "This is the police station. We're totally safe and fine," and then you go back and say, "I realized that was a totally white privileged thing to say." I thought that
Yeah.
was hysterical. Was that in the script, or did you ad lib that?
No, no, that was all Jed and Scott. That was the writers. I can't take credit for it.
That was awesome. What do you
Yeah.
think of the writing of the show?
It was great. I mean, that was part of what attracted me to it in the first place. I mean, even from when I first got the audition scene, it was yeah, it was post lockdown, so it was all tapes, and I didn't get the full thing, but you could tell even at that point from the sides. I think there was 3 scenes. It was just this super fast pace,
Yeah,
good dialogue, good banter. I mean, part of that, I think, them working as a team together, they probably just bounce ideas off each other all day,
yeah. And as it's
and I think that helps make good dialogue. But
oh
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think they really did a good job.
And as it goes with any kind of apocalyptic show, it's always the oddest of people that end up getting grouped together by circumstances out of their control. Now, the
Hmm.
show definitely embraces gore. Okay,
Hmm.
it has no, it's not holding back on the gore aspect. Um, and along with the character building, the story, the comedy as well. What do you feel about the gore aspect? I mean, you, I think it's funny. You go into a retirement home, you go into a police station, you're covered in blood, and no one says, "Hey Cam, you want to tell us something? What happened to you?"
um, yeah, where should I start? The gore. I was doused in blood from day one. Basically, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 scenes where there isn't blood on the entire wardrobe
Yeah.
for all of us, basically. And then being one day over the whole season, you're in that one outfit the whole time. There is no change. Actually, can't really. No, there might be one change that happens,
Okay.
but I don't know, I'll let you get to that. I think it's in the next one.
All right. Okay.
And it's a moment. It's silly, then it's funny, but yeah.
It's funny.
I won't say anymore. I don't want to put my
Yeah,
foot in my mouth.
yeah. Now, like I said, it's blended perfectly, the gore aspect along with the storytelling and the lightheartedness. Now, when you knew you got casted and you're taking on Day of the Dead, which is it's a horror classic, beloved by all horror fans. Did you feel any sense of extra pressure or responsibility in trying to deliver something that the fans are going to enjoy, or do you approach it from, you know what? I'm going to approach this like I do every role. I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to lay it all out there, and hopefully it will gain some traction with the fans.
The second one is what you kind of have to come around to. But also being a fan of it and just things in general, I've seen things I like have a sequel 20 years later that's not even close to what the original was. So you at the same time, you also don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just about, I think, putting the extra work into do the homework, watch all the movies again. It's been years since I'd seen them, so I
Yeah.
went back and then really went to work on all the other stuff. And you just make sure that you kind of have some sort of understanding of what people liked about it in the first place, what people liked about the first one, what people liked about it in the second one, and like what about it was timely and what about it was timeless, and try to take those things, both of those things, and at least wrap your head around it enough so it's in the back of your head. And when you're reading these scripts, you can be seeing these things, and you might not get the Bub reference right away if you hadn't seen the old ones, but that's such a huge aspect of
Mm-hmm.
things. So you really just you have to go backwards and do the homework and make sure you're as up to speed as the biggest fan of this thing, because you don't want to let them down. You don't want people to ruin your favorite movies, your favorite shows, your favorite music, and I only want to make things that, or make a recreation of something that hopefully the person will like, and that's, I mean, that's the goal.
Okay. Now, I've had the honor to have as my guest Laurie Cardeal, who played Sarah in the original Day of the Dead. Wonderful woman, and we really got into it on how filming the original went. Day of the Dead, had Greg Nicotero in it. Of course, Tom Savini did all the makeup. A big horror icon, classic cast. When they were getting you guys together to film this TV show, did they bring anybody from like the originals to like advise or anything like that?
They might have been doing that on their own, and I'm sure they did. But also, again, part of working like post deep freeze, and by that I mean COVID. The sets were more closed. It wasn't really like 2-3 years ago. You go to set and you could, I don't know, you could bring your mom to set if you wanted. Like if you're on a thing for more than a day, you could probably do things like that. But that's kind of
all changed now because of COVID.
Yeah, it's more of a uniform ship for now. But
now the audition process. Did you have to do a lot of callbacks? Did you get it after the first audition? What was the audition process like?
Well, like I said, the initial one was a tape, and then what happened? I think that might have been it. I don't think we ended up doing another one because, there was going to be like a Zoom director-producer session at one point, and at that point, when you're down to like one or two, or like two out of one out of two or three, that's kind of when you'll sign your deal, and they want to know that if they pick you, you're on for it. So you get all your deals in order in place. And I remember we had done that, and I was going to do the session the next day, and then just got a call, and they're like, "Hey, scrap the sesh, we got it."
Awesome.
So it was a nice surprise, and I was here like ready to hit the books again, because it was about a month after I think I had done the first one. So all the lines are gone at that.
Yeah. Now, do you believe your role as Gunner helped you in getting this role as Cam?
It very well could have. I mean, it's definitely genre brand specific.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know. I've always liked the genre, and I feel like I really enjoy doing it, and probably putting my best foot forward in that. So I think, well, also maybe a better explanation is also the people hiring you for a certain thing are probably also watching a certain type of thing that's similar.
Exactly.
So I feel like exposure-wise for the people going to hire me, it's more likely they're going to have seen me in that than a Lifetime movie I had done 10 years ago or something.
Now, do you enjoy...
no shade to that.
Do you enjoy roles in the horror genre? Are they fun? Are they different than other genres that you've done?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is most of the other horror I've done, or honestly probably all of it, it didn't have the comedic aspect to it. Mm-hmm. It's usually like these dark, dimly lit, gray skied, very serious,
like Bates Motel
things. Exactly. There wasn't much beheading and just projectile blood spurts of gore in that one.
So how do you feel about acting in like that line at the police station, where you had to say the whole white privilege thing? Is comedy something that you're comfortable with? Is it something you want to do more of?
Yeah, totally. I really like it. Like I said, I feel like I've done a lot of drama and thriller. Um, and I really love comedy. I've always liked it. It's always been something I've wanted to do more of. That I've only started to do more of in the last couple of years. So
Okay.
it's a nice little change of pace.
Now, going back to the whole 24 reference that you made earlier, so far in the first four episodes, everything is happening throughout the course of one day. Are you
Mhm.
allowed to tell us if the remaining six episodes are still going to be in that one day?
Yes, I think I can confidently not spoil. It is the Day of the Dead. It's just the one day.
Okay.
It's all within the day itself,
Now,
which I think packs in the action a little.
okay, and it makes perfect sense. Stick with the title. Now, Day of the Dead is on Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi is part of the NBC Universal family. Sci-Fi has been making a lot of moves and picking up some great shows like Chucky and now Day of the Dead. They're really carving their way into the horror genre and making a name for themselves in the horror genre. What's it like working with Sci-Fi, which, like I said, its parent company is NBC Universal, which is a huge
Mhm.
production distribution company. How have the people of Sci-Fi been treating you guys?
They've been great. I mean, most of the people on the network side of it wouldn't have been the people I was sharing days of work with, but I feel like we're in good hands with them. I've worked for both Sci-Fi and NBC Universal before, and it's always good sets. It's always well run, and I feel like people in charge are keeping a tight ship. So no complaints.
Now, compared to Bates Motel, if you were to compare that to Day of the Dead, like budget wise, I know you don't have the numbers as particular budgets on a show, but what would you say had the bigger budget? Would you say Bates Motel had a slightly bigger budget than Day of the Dead, or vice versa?
I am so blind to any side of that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that no matter how I could ever answer, I could be right or completely surprised. So I'm not even going to take a stab in the dark and
Okay.
speculate. But I will say they both felt like they were taking care of sets for sure. I
Now,
think
when it comes to Day of the Dead, when it comes to the horror scenes, the gore, and the aspects, uh, how much of that is actual CGI? How much of that is them actually doing practical effects where they rig up a body or a person or a dummy to spew out blood when a head is cut off or something like that?
I think that's one of the best parts about this one is it's mostly there on the day. It's mostly practical effects. The effects people just killed it.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But yeah, most of what you're seeing is just on the day, real blood. Like the lawnmower scene, for instance, that was a lawnmower that had a hydraulic, like an air, like a pressurized air thing that was firing out just gallons of fake blood and spaghetti.
Damn.
Yeah.
And that was all. That's awesome. I would have been. I would have loved to have seen that done. That must be. That must have been a sight to see. Now, you come from an entertainment family. I believe your dad was an actor as well. Uh, did you know? Did you always know that you wanted to be an actor, or at which point did it click for you that this is what I want to do with my life?
I always thought I wanted to be an actor, and then there was a certain point I knew, and I I grew up going to set with my dad, and I would go and watch him and other actors there, and eventually they'd give me a set of sides, and I could read the lines as the actors were doing it, and I could watch with headphones and stuff, and just stay really quiet in a corner somewhere. And I think that was that was a huge advantage when it came to going to set on my own accord later. It was already somewhere I felt comfortable with, and it was already like a I felt at home there because I'd had the time to acclimatize to it and kind
Because
of wrap my head around what's happening
yeah, you grew
before
you
going there. Some
yeah,
legitimate work to do.
like you said, your dad took you on set growing up, so I can understand how this set sort of became like your second home. Now, another
Mm-hmm.
popular show that you had a reoccurring role on is The 100.
Oh yeah.
So you've been on a lot of hit shows, which is really amazing and great. What would you say your experience was on the 100?
Another great show that shot locally in Vancouver. That was I came in like mid to end of first season and did a little bit of the second. The first season it was all we're shooting up in the woods. We're all outside. It was cold, but it was really fun. Great group of people. It just felt kind of like camping a little bit. Like you're all just up there in the woods in the rain.
Now, your dad was
Um,
also involved in the 100. What was it like working with your dad?
well, I didn't actually work with him. He came in after I had after I was no longer on it.
Okay.
He came on I think in third or fourth, and I was done my part by second.
Okay. Now,
Mhm.
I think Day of the Dead.
We have worked together though. We speaking of Bates Motel, those are some days of set we shared and some days of work together there.
What is it like working with your dad?
Super normal. It's it's not really any different. Him and I have a really good, just easy relationship,
That's
and
awesome.
always have. And it's just smooth. I go to set and it was kind of weird the first day, but then it was just kind of like I don't know. I've seen him on set a million times. It was probably weirder for him to see me on set as a first. 'Cause
I'm sure he was
I kind
proud.
of
I'm sure he was proud as shit, just to have you right there and being on set. And I'm sure he's a proud dad on all the success that you've achieved so far in your career. Now, moving forward, Day of the Dead is a great show. I'm pretty feel confident it's going to get picked up for a season two. Let me put you into a hypothetical situation. If Day of the Dead continues and becomes this big blockbuster TV hit, as an
Mhm.
actor, do you want to be locked into a really successful show and a role for a long period of time? Or as an actor, do you want to have the freedom and the experience to explore different characters and different roles as opposed to being locked to playing Cam for 5 years?
Well, the good thing is, if one, I'd be happy to because I like the project a lot, and I think that would definitely be something to weigh out earlier on. But I don't know. I signed on to this knowing that no matter how it turned out, it was written well and it was lines that I felt comfortable that I could go and perform well because the foundation of the writing was good. Um, I'm happy to be on this, and if we're going to do more, I'd be stoked. And the beauty of it is that even if you are quote unquote locked to it, you shoot 10 episodes. That takes 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much time to do things in between. I think I don't know. It wouldn't be something I'd be afraid of. So I really like the project a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Uh, Keenan, I want to. I was about to call you Cam. Keenan, I want to thank you
It's okay.
so.
It happens on set all the time. People call you your cast name, and then they like most of the time they'll apologize, and it's like, hey, no, it's fine.
It's
So
good. It's
just
good.
simple.
It's like the character name is sticking. You're doing your job right, Keenan. Thank you so much for being our guest. Uh, Congratulations on the success of Day of the Dead. Uh, I'm sure it's going to keep growing and growing, and it's going to be a very successful show with hopefully many seasons to come. So, thank you so
Thank you,
much
John.
for being our guest. Any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we go?
Thank you for having me. If you haven't seen it yet, tune into Day of the Dead Friday nights at 10 on Sci-Fi. I think you'll like it. Tune in for some horror.
Horror, awesome horror. Like you said, Sci Fi Fridays, Day of the Dead, you won't be disappointed. Thank you to Keenan Tracy. Thank you to all our viewers for tuning in tonight. We're doing a double feature tonight. We have another interview coming at you at 9:30. So thank you again to
Killer.
Keenan. Yep. We have Art the Clown from
Mm.
Terrifier.
Holy shit.
Anyway, thank you to Keenan. Thank you to all
Well,
our.
tell him I say hello.
I will. I will. Thank you guys, and until in a couple of hours, stay safe. And on behalf of Keenan and myself, stay walking. Till later.
See you later.